everyone. My name is Tim, and I'm creating this channel, Second Opinions, because I want to have a discussion with you. A discussion about something I consider to be probably the most important issue facing humanity today, and that is what are we doing with our future? What are we doing as a society? As you can probably tell by my accent, I am an American. And growing up in America, we're presented with this idea that America is a society in which everyone has freedom, there's liberty and justice for all. But growing up and applying a little bit of, critical thoughts, I've come to the observation that I think probably any intellectually honest person would, that there are a lot of marginalized groups in America. There are a lot of people without a voice in their own futures, without a voice in the way the world is going. And then, on a global scale, we have these wars of, needless violence that are being carrying out in my name, even though, I find them morally objectionable. So, in studying these and thinking critically about the world, I've come to realize that socialism actually has a lot of answers to the questions that we're facing as a society today. It gives us a scientific methodology of analyzing and solving problems in the social world. And so I've created this channel in order to have a discussion about this. So for the past 3 years, I've been living in the People's Republic of China. And while I've been living here, I've been doing a lot of reading. I've been, conversing with people in positions of influence on some level in society here, party members. I've had a lot of very interesting discussions, and I've come to learn a lot about Chinese society that you're simply never going to learn through, secondhand Western media, because there really is this big information gap between, the communist East and the capitalist West. And so I'm trying to be a little bit of a bridge between the two because growing up in America, hearing the media narrative, I understand the way that most Americans think. But having lived here for several years, while I'm no means an expert, I've come to at least partially understand the Chinese mindset and where they're coming from. So, in hopes of building a more peaceful, tolerant, and scientific world, I hope to share some of what I've learned with you. And certainly, I would like to have a discussion both ways. I would like to hear what you guys have to say as well. Because I think the problem is if you're only getting, a limited source of information, you're not really free to make critical analysis of the world, right? So in the United States, 90% of the media is controlled by 5 or 6 corporations. So that's a very limited window into the world. But I think something beautiful about, the internet is that we can share information in real time from, very different parts of the world, very different viewpoints, and we can come to understand each other. So something that inspired me to make this channel was in the past year or two, we actually had a presidential candidate in the United States who self-identified as a socialist. Now, coming from a Marxist-Leninist perspective, I would say that Bernie Sanders certainly is not a socialist. He was proposing, reforming certain aspects of the existing capitalist system in order to preserve it. He certainly was not suggesting replacing it with a socialist economic and political system. So I would not consider him to be a socialist. And I think, the fact that he later went on to endorse Hillary Clinton, who is as much a part of, the entrenched interest of the system as it's possible to be, that demonstrates that he's not a socialist. But the fact that this word is no longer taboo, right? People in an open forum were identifying as socialists. There's a lot of interest. I think people, especially young people in America, they're seeing the problems that capitalism is creating for the world, the crisis it's put us into, and they're curious for this. But I think at the same time, there's an information gap. There's a lack of information, or there's a lot of misinformation about socialism. And certainly, it's not the fault of people who are out there who are interested in learning more. It's just the resources, they're not put together in a way that's easy for a person, who's interested to actually learn in a scientific, reasonable way what socialism is. So I wanted to share what I've learned over the years and allow you guys to share what you've learned with me and have a discussion about what I consider to be a very, important issue. So for my channel, I'm going to have several different things I'm doing. The first thing is defining what socialism is and isn't. And for some of you with a background in this, that might be fairly basic. But I think because, especially in the Western world, there is a lot of confusion and just blatantly false information about, what socialism entails as a system, what the theory is, what the historical practice has been. I think there does need to be clarification of terms at the very least before we can move on with the discussion. So I'll probably have some, videos just entailing what this is. And then I also want to spend a lot of time talking about, what's currently going on in the world, particularly here in East Asia, but also with socialist countries in general. I know, like, for instance, the DPRK and Korea have been in the media a lot recently, right? And in those cases, there's probably even more information, misinformation going on. And so, through conversations I've had with people, through some firsthand observations, I think I can give you guys some information you're probably not going to hear, you know, in 99% of the rest of the media. You're not going to hear this stuff. So I hope to have a critical discussion. Certainly, I believe in the Leninist idea of criticism and self-criticism. So if there's something I'm saying that you disagree with, please let me know. Let me know what's up. Let me know what you think, right? Um, I only ask that you do so, in a way that's civil and conducive to discussion. But, certainly if there's something I'm saying that's just materially wrong, I want that pointed out. I don't want to have, false information, and I don't want to provide that, and I certainly don't want that in return. So I hope that together we can create, a discussion that we're not going to see pretty much anywhere else in the English speaking world of these ideas, which I think are some of the most important ideas there are. So thank you guys for your interest. In the days and weeks to come, I'll have a lot more content, but this is just my introduction. And if you like the work that I'm doing and support me in doing this, I would really appreciate it if you check out the Patreon link in the bottom, where you can, sponsor my content on a monthly basis, which would allow me to put more time and energy into researching for these videos and providing maybe more high quality content. Um, because I'm living here in China, I want to be able to maybe interview people in the Chinese government, or, professors of Marxist theory, maybe even, older people who lived during the revolution who can give some firsthand stories. I want to share this information. In the future, I might be traveling to other socialist countries too, and, provide communication there. And certainly it's in a discussion based format. So if you have anything you would like to ask, maybe, someone who's actually seen, the revolution, someone who's, involved in the Chinese government, or uh, government of other socialist countries, I would like to be able to provide that. And I think with your support, we could have a really interesting alternative to, this one line by the corporate media about most of the world. I want to give you guys at least another way, another opinion, another way of looking at the world that really isn't available in most of Western society. So thank you for your time. And if you're interested at all in this content, please subscribe so you can stay up to date with everything I have to provide here. And please share this video with anyone you think would be interested. Thank you very much. And always think critically, think dialectically, and workers of the world, unite.